it's time to let the old wind.
From our French film of the week, our struggles, to the story of a real-life war reporter, Chris the Swiss, and the movie of the moment, welcome to our weekly film show. And we're going to start with a magnificent, emotional movie that's thrilling and heartbreaking, a fairy tale that's magical and believable at the same time. A Star is Born is Hollywood filmmaking the skeptics claim they don't make anymore. Bradley Cooper directs, writes and performs alongside Lady Gaga in the well-told tale about a hard-drinking rock musician called Jackson who discovers and falls in love with a talented wannabe artist, Ali. The first hour is near perfect. A look at a few days of their initial courtship. Let's take a look.
Tell me something, boy. Aren't you tired trying to fill that void? Or do you need more? Ain't it hard keeping it so hardcore?
Is that me?
That's you.
You just write that now?
Yeah.
You saw it there. Gaga and Cooper have incredible chemistry. Ali is a great female lead, and it's a remarkable performance from a beloved superstar who we see with no makeup and her natural hair colour. The film sees Bradley Cooper transform into a director and Gaga become an actor, and she really is a revelation. The music is meaningful, memorable and hit-worthy.
All the vocals are recorded live, and we jumped onto real stages at Glastonbury and Stagecoach, and just the level of authenticity had to be bar none in order for the movie to work, for you to enter into the story. So there was really, it was all about preparation and getting to a place where I felt like you would believe I was a musician. So it actually meant, in a way, kind of becoming one, I guess.
And I'm joined in the studio by our film critic, Lisa Nesselson. Lisa, this is one of Hollywood's oldest tale. One goes up, another goes down, and this is the fifth version of the story, isn't it?
It is, although I haven't actually seen it yet. But in 1932, just 5 years after talking pictures swept away the silent era, George Cukor directed What Price Hollywood, the template that he would remake in 1954 as the now classic A Star is Born. So this latest rendition is the fifth time the story has been told on film, evolving from the realm of Hollywood to the arena of music. A successful male with a drinking problem, however, is always a plot point. In the first one, What Price Hollywood, an alcoholic film director takes a waitress and helps her fulfill her dream of breaking into motion pictures. That version was surprisingly sharp about the nature of show business and holds up well. 5 years later, in 1937, William Wellman cast Frederick March as a self-destructive actor and Janet Gaynor as the aspiring actress he marries. And it has a really 1930s atmosphere in early Technicolor. But the version to beat is Cukor's 1954 A Star is Born, starring James Mason and Judy Garland as a doomed Hollywood couple. It's achingly bittersweet as her career flourishes and his declines, and Garland gets to sing, including The Man That Got Away. In 1976, Frank Pearson cast Barbra Streisand and Kris Kristofferson as rock musicians. It's generally agreed that that one doesn't quite work, even though Joan Didion had a hand in the script, but its three predecessors definitely do.
And the film has evolved from Hollywood fame to musical fame, but that's not the only change, is it?
No, thank goodness. For the first three versions, it was generally understood in American society that a woman wasn't supposed to be more successful than her spouse, because that might damage a man's self-esteem. Can't have that. Every film goer understood that. A man could encourage his mate, a woman could do well, but not too well. Certainly not better than the guy. By the time of the Kris Kristofferson, Barbra Streisand version, feminist ideas born of the women's movement had actually made their way into the broader culture. But that power dynamic remains tricky on screen and in real life. Nowadays, anybody in the West who says out loud that men as a category are more capable and deserving than women are likely to find themselves thrown to and devoured by the nearest lioness.
I absolutely can't wait until you see A Star is Born
Okay.
and we can talk about what you think, because I absolutely loved it so much. Well, from superstars to a modest French film about the delicate balance between keeping food on the table, getting the kids off to school, and keeping a roof over your head when you find yourself suddenly a single parent, as in Our Struggles.
There are two aspects of this story that I like very much. One is that it's relatively rare on screen that in an established couple, it's the guy who gets dumped and left with the kids. And that guy, Olivier, played by Romain Duris, works as a floor manager and union activist at an Amazon-style fulfillment warehouse. We get a glimpse of how wretched the working conditions are in places like that. Monstrous hangars devoted to, expediting what people have bought as quickly as possible. The term inhuman comes to mind. For example, everybody has to work in coats and gloves and hats because it's so cold inside. This is a thoughtfully structured indictment of the creeping precariousness of steady work, even here in France, where there's a pretty good social safety net. Olivier is stunned when he gets a call to come and pick up his kids at school because his wife failed to do so. And it quickly becomes clear that wherever she went, she isn't coming back.
Okay, well, let's have a listen to the lead actor, Romain Duris, and see a clip of Our Struggles.
He's the kind of man that doesn't like being submissive and who takes charge in the company. He takes risks to help those he works with. Of course, it's an attitude that I liked and that I find works well on screen. But what I really loved is that he fights so hard for those he works with and yet completely neglects people who are closest to him, his own children.
Ça va? Mais oui, et toi? Faut juste que je m'organise avec les enfants. C'est un peu compliqué en ce moment, ok? J'ai pas beaucoup de temps.
Tu es pas là.
Je suis là. Ouais, je sais pas raconter, on a vu, on était là, on était ensemble. Je veux dire, tu sais, Rose, maman est partie, on sait pas. On sait pas pourquoi, on sait pas quand elle va revenir, on sait pas.
That's from Our Struggles. Just Trying to Make an Honest Living is also at the heart of another film, Blind Spotting. It's an independent American film that's getting a lot of attention, isn't it?
Indeed it is. This is a movie set in and made by creative young people from Oakland, California. The third feature to be set there so far this year, in fact. Ryan Coogler, who went on to direct Black Panther, kind of started this MIDI trend a few years back with Fruitvale Station, which was about the tragic death of a black Oakland resident who was just turning his life around. Here are two best friends, Colin and Miles, one black, one white, share a wry camaraderie that rings true, but to me also rings kind of annoying. They're doing the best they can with zero social advantages. Colin, a mellow, obviously bright fellow, wears a head full of dreadlocks, the care and feeding of which leads to an excellent sight gag. He was recently in prison. He's in the last week, in fact, the last 3 days of his probation, and cannot afford, literally, to screw up in any way.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the atmosphere of Blind Spotting.
I would like to get out. I got 3 days left on this probation, Miles, so let me on out
man, you gotta let me hold one of these.
That you can continue with
something for 200.
your gun deal.
Yeah, one in that little visor thing right there. The visor? Oh, yeah.
Of course there's one in the visor.
My goodness. Precious me. One in my pocket. Very nice.
Why are there 6 guns in your car, Dad?
Oh, Colin, man, I like yours. Right here,
this is not mine. Also, stop pointing at me.
They're not loaded, bro. Those are for sure loaded.
Okay. See?
Now, I don't know if you noticed, Miles there has a fashion accessory metal on his teeth called a grill. I took an informal poll of pit bulls, and they told me that they don't think humans look good with metal fangs. The two men work as movers, and Colin is driving the company truck home when he just has a few minutes until the curfew at the place he's living, and he witnesses a lethal act by a white cop against an unarmed young black man. He's 3 days away from the end of probation. What should he do?
Okay, well, this film has received almost unanimous praise. It would be unanimous if you'd really liked it. I guess you don't think it's warranted?
It's not that. We can always benefit from a frank and funny look at the state of race relations in America. The two lead actors, David Diggs and Raphael Cassel, wrote the screenplay based on their own experiences in Oakland, so I have to assume they know what they're talking about in this, their first film. And I am very sympathetic to the ravages of gentrification. I appreciate that part of the story. But after a while, I found their enduring friendship kind of more tiresome than involving. Colin's no-nonsense former girlfriend is a strong, interesting character, however. The filmmakers cover a lot of narrative ground on a small budget. We see how altercations can turn deadly. I'm glad this was made, and I encourage the filmmakers to keep creating, but I was a little underwhelmed.
Okay, well, we're going to end with a film called Chris the Swiss. It's the story of a real-life war reporter who may have crossed some ethical lines and ultimately pays the ultimate price.
Yes, this is an incredibly interesting detective tale of admiration morphing into disillusionment, of how being a journalist in the field during a dangerous conflict can sometimes warp a reporter's judgment, and how a mix of filmed footage and animation can deliver a devastating punch. It's a co-production among Germany, Switzerland, Croatia, and Finland, and nobody else on earth could have made it besides Anja Kaufmel, a young animator and documentary filmmaker, because it's the story of her cousin, a Swiss journalist nicknamed Chris the Swiss. He was found dead in Croatia on January 7th, 1992, strangled with his own scarf. Anja tries to figure out what attracted Chris to being a war reporter in ex-Yugoslavia, piecing together clues from his diaries, from his dispatches from the front, and interviews with thoughtful people, some of whom are still angry and grieving 25 years later. She creates a dazzling mosaic. Her animation fills in incidents that can't be known for sure and presents her admiration for her adventuresome cousin from the point of view of her depicted as a little girl.
Okay, I used to want to be a war reporter, you know, Lisa. And here I am. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to leave you with Chris the Swiss. Remember our website, we're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
They returned your notebooks with your body, reports from the war.
Cristian era una persona que lo que te decía, cuando veía un muerto civil, se preguntaba, ¿están matando civiles? Esto no es una guerra.
Journalists, don't shoot!
Es hat einfach Journalisten gegeben, die wurden nicht mit der Tatsache fertig, dass sie als Zuschauer dort sind, dass sie als Beobachter dort sind.